welcome to a new YouTube channel called Electron Transport. We'll explore everything to do with Tesla ownership, true cost of ownership, tips and tricks, charging, keeping up with features, insurance, frequently asked questions that I get like extreme weather, daily commutes, planning trips, to news and discussions of what's going on around the world in electric vehicles. I'm hoping to answer some common questions that people have if you're either considering purchasing an electric vehicle for the first time, or maybe purchasing a different type of electric vehicle, or even if it's just you've just purchased an electric vehicle and you want to figure out how to get the most out of it. Personally, I own a Tesla Model 3, so my focus will be primarily on Tesla ownership, but I'm going to be looking at lots of different EVs already out in the market and on the horizon, what's coming down the pipeline. Also, mention of just what it's like living in Canada with very extreme climate. I'll address some of the most common questions I get about owning an electric car in such an extreme range of temperatures. I thought a good place to start would be addressing some of the common questions that I get about owning a Tesla in such extreme climate. A frequent question I get is, how does extreme cold temperature affect your electric car? Does it affect the range? The short answer is yes, it does. Tesla uses a heat exchanger pushing coolant around the battery cells to keep them cool in the summer and warm in the winter. In addition, using the batteries generates a little bit of heat, like in your laptop or your cell phone, that you can feel in your hand when you're using them. In fact, the Model 3 can also use the heat which is generated from the motors when it's operating to bring that heat into the cabin and heat the interior during the cooler temperatures. However, in extreme temperatures, when it's minus 40 or minus 50 degrees Celsius, this heat isn't enough. So Tesla has resistive heaters that heat the cabin, but there's a cost. It costs energy taken from the battery to heat, and this can be fairly significant. It can be about 4.8 kilowatts, which can drain about 20 kilometers an hour from the battery. The car has 500 kilometers range if you have a longer range Tesla, and so in a temperature of about minus 40, it consumes about 100 kilometers of your 500 kilometer range just heating the cabin for 5 hours. This means about a 20% reduction in range. That's now in extreme cold, minus 40. That's pretty cold. Of course, you can reduce the impact of this by decreasing the temperature a little bit and using heated seats. The reason for this is because heated seats only use about 500 watts, so a fraction of the kilowatt output that you needed to use the resistive heaters. So if you reduce the interior temperature a bit, use the seat heaters, you'll extend the range in the winter by a fair bit. Now, this is possible on long trips, of course, but daily commutes, you don't have to do this. And you probably won't want the temperature to be reduced anyway. You probably want it on the hotter side so that you have a nice, comfortable cabin temperature. Now, bear in mind, even with the resistive heater, you still get about 400 kilometers of range, which is still very, very. But what about some of the other questions that I get commonly about extreme weather? For example, how does it handle in winter? Well, other channels have looked into testing the Model 3 with extreme driving in the winter in snow and icy handling conditions, and in fact, it does extremely well. Suffice it to say, it is one of the best winter driving cars I have ever owned. Why? Because it's heavy, the weight is low to the ground, so lower center of gravity, increased stability. This mimics all the strategy of a lot of sports cars, like a Porsche, because I drive the dual model version, which is all-wheel drive. I also put winter tires on, which are Nokian Hakkapeliittas, which have a gummy compound, sticks really well to snow and ice. And lastly, Tesla has a really sophisticated way of managing power distribution to all wheels, and it does a superb job of this. So you won't have a better car for winter handling and in extreme conditions. Lastly, what about the rumors of sticking door handles, sticking windows, and sticking charge ports? Just after a car wash in minus 20, the handles can stick. but not that badly. I haven't ever been in a situation where I haven't been able to open them. And by the way, this is the same as any car I've ever owned. This is including my Golf R that I used to own previously. And it used to get its handles frozen shut to the point where I couldn't even open the doors after I had a car wash in the winter. So I've never had any problems with freezing doors, freezing windows, or freezing charge points. Honestly, there is no car I feel confident with in the winter better than my Model 3. Perhaps the Model Y will be an improvement with better clearance, but SUVs perform worse in general because, especially under slippery conditions, because of a higher center of gravity. This means the car isn't as stable. This has been Edward with Electron Transport. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking below and hit the bell so that you're notified when I post my next episode. Thanks for watching.